Nate, since this is your first one, can I say, can we go around and do introductions real quick?
That would be lovely. I was planning on it.
Okay, good.
For everyone that hasn't met me, I am Nate Kalenda. I'm from the State Office of Budget and Management, and this is my first meeting as chair. Excited to lend a hand here. So let's kick it over to Mayor.
Mayor Victor Schneider, with the city of Norwood. You know, it's a place to be.
Brad Schwartz, longtime finance CPA person, live in Norwood and been on the committee since the beginning.
Deb Garvey, I'm from the county auditor's office. I'm retired 12 days a month, so I'm now I've been with the auditor's finance department for that.
John Gomez, State Treasurer's Office.
Anne Marie Thomas, State Auditor's Office.
All right, well, I'll kick us off then. Everyone, welcome to the meeting. The Financial Planning and Supervision Commission for the City of Norwood is January 21st, 9 a.m. And I will call the roll. Mayor Schneider.
Yes.
Council President Gears.
Present.
Mr. Schwartz.
Here.
Mr. Shepherd's not going to be able to join us today. Mr. Gomez.
Here.
Ms. Garvey.
Here.
And I am here. Okay, so we will start by approving a set of meeting minutes from the previous 4 meetings. We haven't been able to approve minutes because the last several meetings have been special meetings, so we've held strictly to the one subject. I may need a hand in figuring out who is able to vote on these, since I clearly was not the chair at the time and not present at the meetings. I have the minutes here in front of me with the attendance, so we will do our best here. So the first set of minutes we are going to approve is the November 15th, 2024 special meeting minutes. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
A second?
Second. Schwartz.
Thank you. Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Council President Gears,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz,
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd, Mr. Gomez. Okay. Ms. Garvey, no, and I cannot vote either. Second set of minutes is Friday, October 9th, 2024. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
And a second?
Second.
All right, I will call the roll. Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Council President Gears,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz,
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd, Mr. Gomez.
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Garvey, and I will not be voting. Perfect. We will move on to the minutes for Friday, June 14th, 2024. Can I have a motion to approve and accept the minutes?
Motion to approve and accept.
And a second?
I will second.
I'll call the roll. Mayor Schneider? Excuse me?
Yes.
Oh, I just heard someone. Council President Gears?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz?
Yes.
Ms. Gomez?
The same.
And Mr. Gomez? Okay, and now we will move on to the last set. We are looking at minutes from the Friday, April 9th, 2024 meeting.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, thank you for the correction. Can I have a motion to approve and accept the minutes?
Move.
Second? Anyone?
Second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Mayor Schneider?
Yes.
Council President Gears?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz?
Yes.
Mr. Gomez?
Yes.
Okay, all right. We are through the minutes now, so we can move into some of the actual business in front of the committee today. So we are going to start with the report of the financial supervisor, and I will turn it over to Anna Mary.
Thank you. In front of you, you'll have a packet of information. You'll have the statement of cash position, monthly totals report first. And then there should be 2 others behind it, not 3. Okay, So in front of you is information on all three reports that is through 2024, so the entire year. The statement of cash position, oh, I'm sorry. I held yours back because you're still on stuff. Okay, so the statement of cash position is at year end for the city. The three funds that are in the recovery plan are the first three. The general fund, M&R is the street fund, and then the state highway and improvement. All three ended with a positive balance for the year. If you looked at all 4 pages, you will not see a negative. We do highlight the water fund because it had been negative at one time while we were in fiscal emergency. It has stayed positive since there was a correction back a couple of years ago.
Can we state the fund balances so that we can put them in the minutes?
Yes, I'm not done yet, but yes, I can. The general fund has a $16.8 million balance, almost $16.9 million before encumbrances. The street fund is at $1.79 million, and the state highway is at $222,000. Those are the three, again, that are in the financial recovery plan. Is there any questions on this one?
Just general, there's several funds with little balances that look like they've been carried over. What ultimately happens with those?
So most of these are restricted, so the general fund is the only unrestricted balance that you will see. So with a restricted fund, you have to use it for what it was intended for. Several of these have grant monies in here, some of them they just don't get a lot of money into them. If it is a grant fund that is then become defunct, they have to research to see, first of all, is it a federal fund or a state fund that requires you to send it back unused monies? And then if it doesn't have to go back to where they received it from, then they need to go through the process. I believe it's 570514, I think, or 10, both, that they would have to look at closing out the fund. Is there something that they can use that's still within the restricted, or can it be closed and moved to the general fund? And with that, you have to follow a higher revised code on how to do that. But first, if it's a grant fund, you would have to go back to the granting agency to make sure that that money doesn't have to go back if unused.
So it's okay if these just roll forward as is?
For a while, yes.
Yeah, for a while. Okay, I was going to
Audit
say, it
would
doesn't
also
sound like
pass.
it's worth the effort.
No, but when you're
37
talking,
cents and,
yeah.
I just thought meant from accounting and keeping things clean, reconciled, I mean, it's like, it would care about $8, but I
if
get
there
it.
is a fund that's not grant related and there's monies that could be used from a general fund in that fund, you could split your expense and pay your 30 cents out of that and not clean it up.
Again.
So, or you have to go through all of the rigmarole of an ordinance or resolution to potentially close the fund. So then it's whichever one makes more sense for the city.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions on this one? Yes,
Did you want the fund balances stated?
I did.
No, no. That's right.
That's okay. Great. Sorry, I have to put mine on the read and then take them off for you guys. The second one is recovery plan revenues and actual, and it's for 2024. It is a one-pager. It shows you the recovery plan estimates by type of revenue and by fund, the three funds that are within the recovery plan. It shows you what was estimated and then what they actually brought in. As you can see, all two brought in more than was expected, and then the state highway fund was extremely close. It was at 99.35% collected. Again, we've already looked, and none of these have negative balances. I'll hit some highlights in here. Property taxes was a little higher than was estimated. It was a reappraisal year, so you saw the effect of the reappraisal in all of 2024 from Hamilton County. Municipal income tax, which is clearly the highest revenue source of the city, especially within the general fund, was more than expected. It was actually more than the prior year. The prior year they got $22.11 million. Withholdings and individual monies collections were higher. They also, within the treasurer's office, did a mailer to remind people to file They also went after the largest apartments and got lists of tenants and made sure to send lists to the new tenants to make sure that they were filing. And that procedure seemed to increase and boost some of the revenue streams within the income tax. Building permits is where fees, licenses, and permits are. That was around $528,000. We've talked about this one in the past. It fluctuates anywhere between $250,000 to almost $550,000. Really depends on what's going on within the city, what kind of building projects are going on, and so forth. And I think the last couple of years that's been up. Usually this is estimated conservatively because there's large swings in different years. So that was another area that had a large boost. Other income under general fund was way up. There was the callback clause, which was in the incentive agreements that they had with a couple of their companies. So they moved and were able to keep over $500,000, and that was moved into the general fund based on the clawback clause in the incentive agreements. We've talked about that in the past, so I definitely wanted to put that out there. Any questions on the general fund? Okay, very great. They collected way more than expected, $30.4 million versus estimated of $27.3 million. The street highway, or street and state highway, again, the street was over what was expected by a little bit, and then the state highway was just slightly smaller. I was going to state this, interest revenue was up too. The city treasurer's office is not only just investing with Star Ohio, they've changed banks. They're actually getting some interest returns from the banks, and they're actually going into some newer investments as well that is increasing their interest rate, or interest income. So, any other questions on revenues? Okay. My last one for financials is the expenditures. It's pages 1 through 6. We are comparing the financial recovery plan versus what the actuals are. We break it down by department. We don't show like personal services and all that. This is how we've kind of shown things throughout the year. If you look through here, you will not see any of the departments that overspent. They're actually below what was estimated. A couple of them are lower than like 70%. That's for different type of reasons. Civil Service Department on page 2 of 6, it was below 50. Contractual services was quite less than what they had expected. EMS Department on page 3 of 6. There was an ambulance that was budgeted to be purchased outright in capital project side of things, and that was not, so that really reduces because those are, not cheap. I think it was around $250,000 that was budgeted. Street section on page 4, it is at 41%. There were some capital projects that weren't completed or done or spent fully. That was over $1 million. I can have the city talk about that if you would like. Public land and buildings as well on that same page was around 50. And again, there was capital projects that were budgeted for that were not paid in that year. And again, they can definitely speak to that if they would like. General fund goes through page 5. And then the last page is street and state highway. State highway was almost fully spent on the budget. Street was not quite, but they did do work on Montgomery Road paving project, a curb ramp, and other things. And then they can also speak to other projects that are in the works for those funds as well. Any questions on any of these? I think this is one of the first times at the end of the year we haven't seen a department over, which is not completely bad, because if you needed something there, but you didn't need something in another department, we can move and stuff, we've done that before, so.
Are you taking comments now? When you state that, you say this is the first time in years that we've had departments that came in under budget. And I know you're an accountant, and I realize you guys don't really care, but I will tell you from administrative part, the first time in the city of Norwood that's in a fiscal emergency where we've had all of our department heads watch their budgets so well that they're under. I mean, kudos to the staff that's sitting here for doing such a great job on watching your budget and on keeping these things on track. I know the accountants just look at it as quick numbers, but I realize all the time and effort you put into doing this. And really, it is appreciated. And the community members of the city appreciate all the hard work that's being put in place. When you talk about improving revenues, and we talk about the treasurer's office, Tim, thank you very much for all the work that you guys are doing and pushing forward, making progress and getting all this income that wasn't being taken in before, that was sitting there, that put us in a financial emergency, fiscal emergency. But now you're doing it right, and I really appreciate that. And I know if James was here, I'd say the same thing to the treasurer. Thank you very much for all that, the hard work of doing on those things. It's huge. I look at these numbers, as if I was an accountant, I'd look at these numbers and say like, wow, Norwood, you guys are doing great. You're really moving forward. I'd realize this is just sharing the numbers, but it's a little disheartening to the board or to the people who are making it happen. I think, thank you very much. You know, it is much appreciated. The only comment I had.
Good. Anyone else?
That's all I have for financials.
Okay, good. Well, we can move on to new business then. The first item on that list is the Auditor of State's engagement letter. So I will again turn it over to Anna Mary here. I'm sure that would be.
Thank you. For our services while you're in fiscal emergency, we have to do a letter every year stating what our services will be, how much that will be. Since Norwood has been in place in fiscal emergency for several years, it is at a cost to the city. This has already been sent to the city auditor, and he has already signed this. It also requires a signature from the commission chair. This is something we've done every year. The cost is still the same. If we don't use all the hours, we do not charge you all. I do not think that we've actually charged them all for a while. I have to go look. So this is just to make you guys aware, also to allow you guys to have any comments or questions before Nathan would sign that.
What is
Comments?
the annual cost? Max there. Sorry.
That's okay. I should have said that. $50,000. It's $50 per hour, and that's a reduced cost for our services while you're in emergency.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Yeah.
As the mayor, I'm looking at bar one from 23, and I was required to sign this as the mayor. When you sent this out as an addition to the agenda, it never did come to me, so I haven't even seen this thing. I'm looking at previous years, and that number was not to exceed $12,750. But now it's $50,000?
So, do you have the emergency one, or is that a different one?
This is from February 15th of 2023 for 24.
That would be GAP. Let me see it. I'm pretty sure it's our GAP services and not our financial supervisor.
Sounds like, what, a quarter of the amount?
Well, can I see the contract or the agreement that we're looking at
Yes.
doing now?
Financial supervisor was $50,000. I checked before I did the letter.
Yeah. This is for GAP purposes.
So that letter's different than this letter? Because it sort of
This
sure
is to
looks like the
prepare
same
basic,
letter.
this is to prepare basic financial statements for year-end 2022. You guys, and all cities do, you report on cash basis throughout the year. At the end of the year, cities are required, as well as counties, to report on a GAAP basis, which Deb would know about that too, because the county is required to be on a GAAP basis. You can contract for services to put that GAAP report together, which is balance sheet, operating statement, net position, and all that. We do a hybrid type contract with the city where the city auditor's office does prepare folders, we review folders, we help them put the report together. We bring new information for GAAP purposes to the table. That's totally different. They can choose to go with us, they can choose not to go with us on that. The financial supervisory engagement that's in front of you is for services just for emergency and has nothing to do with the GAAP. So what you have in front of you right there, Mayor, is for the GAAP purposes, which is required to have your signature.
So you're saying this is a different document, although it's outlining so many of the same things. It's, in this document, you're charging 75. The previous documents, you charged $75 an hour. Now you've dropped it down to $50 per hour.
Yes.
Because-
So our services for fiscal related is set at $50. Our services for any other contractual work is based upon your actual gap report. So it also is based upon, is it revenues?
Yeah, it's a sliding
You can
scale.
speak to it
So,
more because he does it
so
more.
if you, depending upon your statement of activities and your financial statements, depending upon what that amount is, it is a sliding scale. It ranges all the way from $60 an hour, all the way up to $85 an hour. In the city of Norwood's case, you fall within the middle based on revenues, which is $75 an hour. So for your gap contract, for us helping the city with their financial statements, we charge the city $75 an hour. And again, I can't remember the hours off the top of my head, but it is, I think it's somewhere around, 100, something like that, roughly. For the financial supervisor, like Anna Mary said, it is established by our office at $50 an hour. That doesn't change. It doesn't matter if you're a very small little township or we're working with the city of Columbus. In financial supervisor world, it's $50 an hour. So they're two separate contracts.
Okay, so you're saying these are totally different documents, although they
Yes,
look
sir.
the exact
They're very
same, and all the verbiage is all
Yes.
much the
that's
same.
right. The
But-
services are totally different.
So will there be one, so this was one that came to me, and the auditor had to sign it, as well as the mayor, the mayor of the city had to sign it. Is there another one coming to me, coming to the mayor, that will require the mayor and auditor to sign? Or
Yes.
has this changed to where?
No, I am waiting on an answer from your city auditor on whether you guys want to go with our services for both the city of Norwood and the Board of Health, because the Board of Health is a component unit of the city of Norwood. So you can't finish your city of Norwood financial statements until the Board of Health is finished first. So we do two engagements, and you have to sign the Board of Health one, because you are I forget who's involved on that, but those are two totally different. I'm waiting on an answer, and yes, you'll be getting two more engagements, potentially.
And so as the financial supervisor goes, the only signatures that are required from our office is the chairman of the chair of the commission and the city auditor's office in your all's case.
Okay, is this in any way going to conflict with the potential, and I know maybe you guys are thinking there's no potential for that to happen, but we'd like to be out of a fiscal emergency in the city of Norwood? Is this any way entering into this contract going to conflict with any potential of us getting out of a fiscal emergency?
No.
This is a contract for services. You're saying that this doesn't, so
This
this does
also
not.
would pertain to taking you out of emergency if that were to be on the table to look at as well for our office. This is to cover any of our services while you're in emergency. If that were to come to play, that we would, what we call terminate, it's a termination report to take you out of fiscal emergency, then we would not have that in play at that time. So it would not contradict you coming out. It will not supersede you coming out of fiscal emergency, if that makes sense.
We have to have the contract in place for financial supervisor services, which will continue even if you all ask for termination. As long as we are still meeting, as long as the Financial Supervision Commission is still in place, we will still utilize that contract for those services. If the city requests to come out, they request to be terminated.
Not the city,
Uh,
the commission.
The commission, if the commission requests to come out, okay, then, and it is deemed that, okay, yes, we are going to start the termination process, at that point, the city will no longer be charged for the termination process. The termination process and all of that work is actually borne by the state auditor's office. The only services that you all would still be under contract for in regards to financial supervision would be us being the financial supervisor until you are released from fiscal emergency.
So that includes any of the issues that we have come up on debt that I have to review. That is the recovery plan that my office has to review, preparing for meetings, any questions that relate to financial stuff that then goes against has to be reviewed for the financial recovery plan, or other funds that could potentially have an effect on the three funds that are within the financial recovery plan.
Is there any option for the commission to say, no, we don't want to sign this agreement? And I know I don't talk for everybody here. I'm
Under the
saying
code,
it's an
my office
observation.
is the financial supervisor under chapter 118. So it would be under state service. And in code, I do believe it also states the pay down method, you're free for 2 years, you have to pay a percentage after that, and then you are at 100% paid for now.
My understanding is that number, the max on that number was not 50,000, it was $80,000. Because we hit a trigger last year that bumped us up another level. That's not familiar to you?
No, I don't know
Chris,
which
that's not familiar
contract
to
or
you?
what you're talking
Not
about.
from financial supervisor position, no.
Okay. That was brought up to me last year or 2 years ago, saying if you hit a certain time frame of being under a fiscal emergency, that then all of the expenses went up with the state office, with the state auditor's office.
According to the latest billing bulletin that we have, and it says this, I don't have the bulletin number off the top of my head because it changes every year because they change the amounts, they can also change the rates.
Yeah.
Any service outside of like gap, preparation, supervision, the other contract that you were looking at, any local government services contract outside of those particular services are stated to be $50 an hour, regardless.
All right, thanks for clarification. Thank you.
And I'd be happy to circulate that form to you as well. My apologies for not sharing it before.
That's, if I'm not required to review it and sign it, I mean, it's the same verbiage that
I
I've
mean,
been
maybe for
here.
clarification, we can make the letters look slightly different or put a header or something in it just to say like, this one is not the same as this one.
We have a
Just a
very
thought.
set thing, so
That's
you
fine, I
can
got
take
it.
that back to our office and we
I got
can
it.
see what.
Even 1, 2, and 3 or something. You know, I mean, like, keep it simple.
Usually in the first paragraph, or first or second, again, depending upon the layout, it talks about whether it's a financial supervision or whether it's for the supervision and assistance to prepare your your general purpose financial statements.
Okay.
The rest of it, like Anna Mary said, is pretty much it's standard
Yeah,
wording.
boilerplate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it looks very simple.
Right, right. And that's obvious, for a reason.
Okay, without any other comments, we can move on to our next topic, under old business and new business, or under new business. So we are going to discuss now the potential lease of 4 police vehicles that was requested to be added to the agenda by the city on Friday morning. So there's a need to lease 4 police vehicles because there are several that have been purchased that have not been able to be outfitted. And I'd be happy to let the city speak to the need and the ongoing situation.
Yes, thank you. I'm Chief Sumner.
Hold on, Chief, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Nate, is there nothing we need to do to finalize the engagement letter?
No, there's
That
not.
was just a review for
Yep.
us to look at it and then.
Yep, that's on the agenda for
Okay, so no motion
discussion.
or anything like
Nope,
that.
just for awareness.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And with
No,
that,
happy.
I mean, I'm clearly, the chief's here for a reason.
Yeah.
So if you're.
Absolutely.
That's fine, okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure we
Nope.
weren't moving wrong.
I appreciate the clarification, yeah.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you. So yes, I'm requesting that the commission approves the police department and safety service director going into a 4-year lease to purchase 4 police cruisers. As of now, we have 6 police cruisers to outfit 42 police officers. So those are well over 8 years that we've had them. One is 10 years with over 150-something thousand miles on 4 of the 6. So normally when they get 110, 120, it's time to go ahead and turn those in. We've had 3 that's been taken out of service that has been totaled. 1 was hit on the interstate. 1 was T-boned out here on Montgomery Road. I don't know all the ins and outs of how these are being replaced, but because what I know is when we have a vehicle that's totaled, not only do we lose the vehicle, but we don't get any insurance funds back into the police fund to replace that vehicle. So we're out times 2. and that has happened 3 times in 2024 by no fault of our officers. So we have just for the last 6 weeks, we've had 1 police sergeant, 1 police officer that comes to work and sits on the desk because we don't have enough police cruisers to outfit in a complete shift. And the reason why I'm requesting to go into a lease, it fixes a problem now, and it sets us up to start an actual vehicle rotation towards the end of these leases. So with the 4 that I'm requesting, it does fit within the financial recovery plan of our projected police cruisers in page 1 of the Norwood capital improvements. Our first year cost to lease these 4 cars would be $88,800, which is in 2024, according to FRP, it's allowable $157,000. And then year 2, 3, and 4, it's only $31,900 a year. So it creates a cash flow and a budget template. Basically, it's a lot easier to manage a fleet like this, knowing what our costs are going to be for 4 years, instead of every year trying to purchase 2 cars or 1 car or 3 cars. With the purchase of these 4, hopefully we get the 3 that we purchased last year within the next couple months, and we can take our oldest vehicles out of service. They're unsafe. They shouldn't be driven now, but we have to do what we have to do.
Okay. I will just jump in before I'll turn it over to you, Anne Mary, just to clarify again, given the miscommunication on the last item, we will not be voting on this today. Council has not approved these, and so my assumption would be that should council approve them, we will potentially have a special meeting to approve that debt. Yes, go ahead.
I consider this a public safety emergency. We've got police officers that can't get to respond to emergency calls. And as I look back, I realize completely, Anna Mary, Chris, all of them have made it clear that things need to be approved by council before they come here. What I would like for the commission to do is recognize this is a public emergency. This is no fault of the chiefs. This is a situation that occurs. I'd like for us to take a vote and approve this contingent upon city council's approval. And city council is going to hear the same discussion that the chief said. And if city council agrees at that time that it is an emergency and we should be moving forward with this, then we should. And that's why all the information's here. This is not a situation where we're saying we need to do this because the concrete needs to be repaid or anything like that. This is a public safety challenge. And it's not a public safety challenge because of the chief. There are you go out on 71 and somebody rear ends a police cruiser. Those things happen in the duty they're doing. They've got 3 new police cruisers that are purchased, that are sitting there to be outfitted. But in Hamilton County, you can't even get them outfitted right now. We have to go all the way to an organization that's close to Lexington to outfit the police cruisers because there's something going on with the one organization that did it in the region. So now we even have to go. So it took 4 months to get the new K9 car outfitted. And this is all prepped out. This is all stuff that they're doing well in advance, but it's not happening. That car sat here for 2 months before it could even get to the outfitters, and then it took 2 months to get it outfitted. So, Chief,
It's still not finished. We purchased that car in February of 2024. Then they called me and asked me if it was okay if they could drive it to Columbus, to their other headquarters up there, to finish it up. I just got word Friday that the part that we've been waiting on for 11 months came in and it was the wrong part. So I don't know if it's going to take another 11 months or if they're going to try to streamline it. But we're cutting ties with this outfitter, and we have another one that's ready to go in Kentucky, L&W. They're welcoming us. So the problems that we're having now, it should not continue to have.
And we had to change police cruisers. So we were using the Ford Explorers, which have been a good step. Ford's not producing them
Correct.
in the way that they were now. So we've got to go to the Dodge Durango, which is a whole nother problem in and of itself, because now things that were interchangeable somewhat are now different. So I'm not I'm asking for a special consideration on this because of the situation we are in with these police cruisers. And I think I did, well, now, when we purchased the fire truck, the ladder truck, remember we did that, we had a ladder truck go down, and a ladder truck is a multi-million-dollar piece of equipment. It went down. We were depending on other communities to help us, and then you might recall, Brad, I know you were involved in it, when we contacted Cincinnati, and we purchased a ladder truck from them for $80,000. $80,000 for a working ladder truck is incredible. I mean, Cincinnati really helped us out. And we used that thing just this last week at that big fire. We had a huge Victorian home on 4 go down. And that ladder truck was there in the middle of it all, servicing the city. That's the same type of scenario that we're in right now, if you ask me, with these police cruisers. And that's why I asked, I'm asking the commission to look at it and say, yes, we agree, that's the right move to make, and upon city council's approval, and let the chief get in front of them and explain the situation.
So it'd be like a recommendation you're suggesting?
What's the timetable look like on city council approving those before we even have that discussion, I guess?
The
Next meeting is
council meeting.
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday?
That's right.
Okay.
But we as a group here, as the commission, do not have a real good history of meeting regularly. And it's a challenge to get everybody together at times and get everybody here. So that's another reason why I said, like, let's do this now and not try to get council to approve it and then try to do an emergency meeting of the commission if we can move forward today.
Well, I mean, can we retroactively, we can't do that anyway. I mean, legally, it's got to go through the channel. We can't say, yeah, contingent, if they approve it, then you've already got our approval. I don't think legally that.
Yeah, so the fire truck that you mentioned was not a debt instrument, not a lease. It was an outright purchase, and it was allowable within the FRP plans. If you were actually outright purchasing, you already have it in the plan, and you wouldn't have to have an approval right now from the commission because there's no debt instrument, and it has been, as Noah was a part of that conversation, leases for equipment are considered a debt instrument that has to follow the high-rise code under chapter 118. So it has to follow, city council has to approve first, then it comes to the commission. I have looked at some of that stuff, even though that came very fast to us. I'm going to ask the same questions in front of everybody that I already asked the city, so that as a financial this is stuff I would ask you no matter what. So I'm going to ask some questions while we're sitting here. One, you've already stated it's an emergency. Two, you've already brought up that there are other vehicles. Isn't it more than just one that you actually purchased last year that you're still waiting to be outfitted?
The one that we purchased in February of last year is a K9. So that's different from our regular patrol service going out and providing services. We did purchase 3 new Dodge Durangos, which falls into the same issues that we're having with the K9. So we purchased those in July of last year, and we are no further along today than we were the day that we purchased them because of the outfit
Okay,
issues.
so you have the vehicles.
We don't have them in our
They're
possession.
purchased, but you have them. They just need outfitted. Is that
They
correct?
need outfitted
They're
and purchased, they are purchased.
They
yes.
We do not physically have them.
Okay, was it a lease as well? I forget.
No.
No.
Okay, so it's an outright purchase. All right, can you pull them back from the outfitters or go somewhere else to move those along, as well as wanting to do this too?
We've examined I'm the enterprise fleet manager for the city, so we've examined possibilities of pulling them from the outfitter and going to our new outfitter. It would be at a substantial cost to the city to pull them due to what we've already promised to the outfitter, so we're unfortunately bound to these and cutting ties after these 3 due to the circumstances.
That makes sense. So that was one of the questions. The other question, under the new lease agreement, it states, I believe that it is at 20,000 miles is what the lease price is quoted at, but it doesn't tell me anything if you go over that amount. Do you have a cost? And I know I've been told no, but I need something that says, is that the case? Because that is also a financial impact to the city that needs to be considered.
Yep. Can I hand you these? Yes. There you go. So those would be anything that we're reaching an agreement on for these new units. So for clarification on terminology, lease and enterprise is not what you would consider a traditional deal at lease. It is essentially an open-ended lease. So what that means is that equity created is the city of Norwood. So there's examples to keep numbers simple. If the vehicle's $30,000, we don't write the residual down to zero like a traditional finance lease. We only write it down to a certain residual, and you get the benefits back. So if we write it down and there's $15,000 due at the end of the lease, and the vehicle would sell for us at $20,000, City of Norwood gains that $5,000 in equity that they can use.
Is
then-
there a cost that they go over the amount?
There is no, it's an open-ended lease. We do offer what you would consider like a traditional lease where costs would occur. This is not that. It is unlimited mileage. There's no damage penalties. There is no early termination penalties. It is extremely flexible.
Okay, so it will not be theirs at the end.
They will have the option to purchase it at the end. They will have the option to buy it for the residual value. They would turn it in to us as an option for replacement, part of our enterprises cycle. And then they can also just, like I said, continue to keep it on lease. They can restructure the lease for one additional year. If we see that the sales market is not what we projected, we would want to potentially keep it in there for another year if it's in good shape.
Okay. How long will it take to get these outfitted? Because it's not, you get these and then it goes right into service either.
LNW has been a much better communicator, and they're very adamant about the partnership because they would be gaining a lot of business from enterprise due to the volume we do for different cities and entities. Their outfit time is somewhere between 3 and 5 weeks once vehicles arrive.
Wait a
Other-
minute, did you say 3 and 5 weeks?
Yes.
Once vehicles arrive in LNW, yes. Which is the same,
Wow.
that's the same pattern we were expecting from the current outfitter, Valor, but they've had their own issues and been pushing back the timelines. That's the same timeline from Valor that these guys are like more adamant about getting started.
That's the 3 to 5, not from you, that's from the outfitter.
From the
And
outfitter,
you're
yes.
separate from them, correct?
Yes.
Okay, making sure. Under the FRP that you quoted on the capital projects plan, you are correct. On the capital improvement, the police coaches are under here. There is an amount under there for 5 years, but those were actually set for an outright purchase. So we're talking differently now with a lease, so there's principal and interest that has to be involved. Yes, you could sustain that going forward, but I believe that you were also looking to do new ones every year. So you're looking to do leases then now for every year under this, or what's the plan now? Because that definitely needs updated in the FRP when that's updated. Yes, there's money here to make the payments, but the concept is different, even though you talk about a cost savings, but it's really, you're spreading out your payments now from this year to the 4 years for just these, and then
Right.
you still have in play a plan to buy more each year. So that, the other thing I'm curious about is what's the plan going forward, and making sure that that's updated and known.
Yes, if the plan moving forward, at least the way that I look at it, if these numbers are correct and that can be a baseline, not only does that cover the lease payment per year, but it also gives me a substantial amount left where I can purchase. Long-term goal is not to sustain a lease from enterprise. The long-term goal is to get these 4 on a lease because it's easier to pay for them now, other than coming to the mayor or the safety director and say, I need $500,000 because I need to buy 4 cars. That's probably not going to happen.
Right.
So if I could, while these are being leased, there is still enough finances for me to purchase one in 2026, purchase another one in 2027, and possibly purchase 2 in 2028. And that will get us back on a vehicle rotation, and we don't have to turn these in to continue leases.
Okay. I like your forethought and your thinking, so I'm going to caution you, because that's my job. So under here, when you're looking at those type of expenditures and the plan that good looking to the future, that's why this is in place. That's why each department is required to say, hey, these are my needs, these are my wants, and then what can we do in the future for the big ones, right? So the plan was to outright purchase, now we're putting leases into effect. Yes, that is a savings per se, but the plan is to buy cruisers. So if there's money available, you're really stretching it out. So now you got to make sure that you have enough in your budget to pay for it going forward, right? And once you get it, because that payment doesn't start until they get it, correct?
Correct. We'll be in an agreement with Enterprise that they will not make the first payment until it's fully outfitted and they have the vehicle in hand.
No, thank you, because I was gonna ask if it's in play or if it was outfitter, because that's two different things, and you're not the outfitter. So if that is part of the agreement, which I definitely think needs to be given to council and the commission for when they approve this, and then it's in writing, that timeline starts once it's all outfitted and in place. So that affects this going forward. Yes, there is some savings in there, but it's really, you're taking it and moving it. So to want to put other things in play, that needs to be communicated to your administration and council when this is being put together, which should be being updated as it is. So that is already in place and you're looking at the needs going forward. So if there is something else, that is already within here, and then you, again, don't have to worry about a $500,000 thing that you just stated and a need, but that needs to be in here, and that's why this practice is in place and looking forward. The capital improvement plan should stay in place with the city, no matter what type of, if they're out or not, and I know that you guys have talked about using that, so that I'm going to caution you with that. Just because you don't use all that money doesn't mean that you can then use it for something else. That really needs to be discussed at the administration level and making sure you're still within the FRP, especially when we're talking capital type plans. Things can change and we've moved stuff around. Again, just cautioning you. So if that is what you're looking at, and those that are working on the recovery plan, that needs to be taken into account, and what you're saying needs to be reflected. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. So, we did, a few of us did have the lease agreement in front of us. I did have questions about that, so I appreciate some of the answers because that's just my financial brain working it as well, and then looking at planning going into the future and how they can sustain and what that looks like within the FRP.
Okay.
So if I could interject, operationally, in my opinion, we should be leasing some of these police cruisers all the time. We should have a rotation of new cruisers coming in and rotation of old cruisers going out. Enterprise is offering an opportunity to return cruisers that we've driven for a while. When I took over as mayor at our Public Works Department, and some of you recognize it, we had 25 broken down police cruisers sitting there from 15 years, 20 years ago. That as they would fall apart, we would purchase new ones and these old ones would be sitting there. And I think in our budget, we started seeing some real income coming in from surplus sales, which we put on the auction website, and we got rid of all those. I don't ever want to get to that position again. I think when a police cruiser has reached its final, you don't park it in the field over Public Works and let it rust apart. You try to recoup any value that's in it and put that into the purchase of the next one and moving forward. And that's something I think, we're not talking about taking the whole police department, the whole police fleet to Enterprise. We're talking about taking a certain portion of it that isn't consumable. These cars are very much consumed over a short period of time in the city of Norwood. We got great streets, they're getting better, but the way these police cruisers are driven is tough on them too. So it's a right move, from running the city like a business, it's the right move to keep it moving forward that way. So
I had a question just about the outfitters, I guess the previous outfitters.
Yes.
It sounds like, I don't know the agreement, I don't know what we paid them up front or to outfit, so we're kind of stuck with them, but legally, is there any room for us to argue that there's a breach of contract or something given the time frame or
Right.
the fact they ordered the wrong part or whatever it is, to say, listen, this contract's null and void because you guys screwed it up?
Yeah, that would probably be on Enterprise, because with these numbers that I quoted you, that's for the payment of the vehicle and the total of the outfitting. So when we pay Enterprise pays the outfitter 50%, so they can order all the product.
Yeah.
So we're done paying for it, even though we paid for it.
So they get the money and then the money goes to the
Yeah, so
outfitter
right
guys,
now,
so it's kind of between those two.
they're at the loss right now.
Yeah, I mean,
That's something I just wrote down. I'll make sure to clarify that.
yeah, I mean, I've been through this with IT companies where like, listen, we had ransomware attack. Clearly that was on you. We're out of this agreement. If you don't like it, let's go sue us.
Yeah.
And it was painfully obvious that they had nothing to fight. So I would think the time frame, just given well, they can do this and they can't do this.
So
It sounds like a lack of, contractual obligation.
I think they're trying to change their business model, because they fired half the people that they have in the Cincinnati shop.
Mhm.
Because they make all their money in Columbus because they outfit Bexley, Dublin,
Right.
all these affluent places up there.
Sure.
And they normally outfit everybody here in Hamilton County. When I went in there to talk to the owner the other day, it seemed kind of empty. They had a Mason car, they had a sheriff's car.
They
had
probably left town,
and they
more
had
or
a
less.
Sharonville car,
Yeah.
and he wasn't around. So I don't think they're doing anything malicious. I think you have one owner that's jockeying two companies, and he's just way in over his head.
Well, I think he's making money in Columbus, and he's
100,
probably not
yes.
making as much money here, so you
Right.
go where you're gonna make the money, and you send your
Yes.
resources. Our uniform company at work did the same thing, they, can't remember their name, but they left this market, and they were headquartered in Columbus, and now, like, we don't see them anymore, and they just send our stuff. So,
Yeah, because
I get it, but
they
it's
had
like,
three
that
installers.
still reaches to, breach a contract.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't, something
I mean,
to look into, anyway.
It is something that is escalating within the system. It's already been, as a contract, upfitted to the corporate level in St. Louis. So it's something that we're still attacking because it's local. But from what I've learned about Valor is that when they dismiss this person who is in charge of the Cincinnati office now, pretty much full-time lives in Columbus. He comes down here maybe once every 3 weeks. So
Right.
finding him is nearly impossible and his communication level is extremely low. What we've heard as rumors from them is that they're trying to switch to electric vehicle aftermarket
Mhm.
here in the city of Cincinnati, which is
Good
a
luck.
different plan that I've never heard of for an outfitter. So as soon as we heard that, we just initially started like, who are we gonna go to? And that's where LW decided to go. It's to your point, yeah, I'll get you. an answer on it.
Yeah,
I can breach a contract.
I would at least raise my hand and say, listen, can we get out of this thing, because you failed us in so many ways, I mean,
It's gone up to like the group controller for enterprise fleet management of the whole
yeah,
Midwest.
plus you guys aren't getting,
Correct.
you know,
It
the
holds up
clock's not
everybody.
ticking yet, so,
Mhm.
you know, if you feel the pain as well,
Yes.
so, okay, well, thank you.
And that would be the benefit of, again, these new vehicles, because you wouldn't have the outright purchase with the lease program, so the contract, really, to your point, needs to be spelled out a little bit better, but it would be in the contract that we would not charge payments until vehicles are delivered. So this kind of situation physically couldn't happen again under contract, so.
Right.
So potentially we have the K-9 and 3 that already purchased last year.
Yes.
And to get into play, and then 4 potentially with a new lease to go to council and approved by commission.
Yes.
So that would be 7 normal, 1 K-9, right?
Yes.
Right.
The only, when you say that, because I asked that same question, it's like, okay, so we're getting 7 new police cruisers in 25. So how long, if they last 4 years, in 4 years from 25, we've got 7 old police cruisers. So, and I know that the fire department looks at their command vehicles and how many miles they put on them and all of that, and that's something the chief's been looking at, but realistically, the way that policing goes, we won't have 7 vehicles in 20, those 7 vehicles won't be there. 3 of them will be totaled because somebody hit them on the highway.
Think positive here.
I didn't think positive, but
We need to get some reimbursement.
Even before.
You know, it's like, not only when you get a DUI, you're also gonna have this beautiful wrecked cruiser that you get to pay for.
With all the equipment without.
Yeah.
it's a challenge, that's for sure.
Okay, any other comments on the police cruisers? All right, well, with that, we will go ahead and move on. Our next set on the agenda here for old business and new business, we are going to touch on progress on bank reconciliation and then the report on accounting methods. So I will again turn it over to Anna Mary.
Bank reconciliations did get a little behind during 2025, a lot of part. The city treasurer's office has worked to get those more timely. We have seen a bank reconciliation through November. We're waiting on December's. So they're working on that in-house now. We do review that when those are finished. So I like the progress getting back to getting more timely. It wasn't they working on it, it just, there were some things at play that got them a little behind. So that's where we stand with that.
And the
then-
plan requires us to be reconciled by the 15th of every month.
I believe that is correct,
That's
yes.
like the accounting method that
Yes.
we need to reach.
Yes. So that's in the recovery plan too, I believe, so, yes. And then, for the report on accounting methods, I just sent this out, and this is in front of you too with all their comments. Here's what I'm gonna say in a nutshell. There's been progress. We have tested at times in 2024. We need to come in and test the latter part of 24 and then the first part of 25, especially the assets and the inventory, because the annual stuff was supposed to be done, so that should be available here in January, February. So we would be looking to look at those then. The biggest portion of this is policies and procedures. So I'm going to go backwards for a minute. To get into where we request that you guys are out of fiscal emergency, you have to do 4 things. Okay? And that comes on our office to review. First thing is we're going to test you for all the conditions under 118 to see if you meet anything emergency-wise. Okay? That's the requirement. The next thing we will do is look at a 5-year forecast, which includes all the funds that you already have within your FRP, so the 3 funds. And we'll also look at the other funds, because if anything is not in good shape with other funds, the general fund would have to back them. So I'll use permissive motor vehicle license tax as an example. That is not within the plan. That is your other road fund that you guys have that you can pull from. That fund is pretty much tapped, and we've talked about that, because of all of the debt issuances that have been done for road projects with no interest and stuff, but it's the permissive MVL that's paying for that. So again, kind of like the lease, some of those don't start payments until you finish project or got stuff in play. So you have some that we have approved in the last year or two that you aren't paying on yet, but it is projected you will start within 2025. There's not enough coming off that you've already paid completely off in those realms that will help with what is due for the debt that you've already incurred and we've talked about and approved. So that one's tapped. You can no longer use that one for any of those types of projects or loans. So therefore, either got to come back into the street or state highway fund, or it's got to be helped with the general fund. So we've talked about that, and that's why I'm using an example. So we'll look at the 5-year forecast. You are required to update your financial recovery plan, I think by March. We'll get to that, I'm sure. We would take that into account if we're looking at maybe later in the year to take you out, and it's a maybe, I'm just throwing scenarios out, we would look to update that 5-year forecast to what has actually happened through whatever time frame we've got, and if anything has changed going forward. So that would be another thing that would have to be within the termination report. Another thing would be your most recent reports, your audit. So if you have any audit comments within the actual report and the management letter, we have to then look to see if you've corrected those or if you're on the way to correcting those. We have to make a blurb about that. The other one is this report on accounting methods. Every one of these comments are laid out within that termination report. We have to state, my office, if it's complete, in process, or not even started. Several things have been in process. We cannot take you out if you have a lot in process. And it's been talked about that we'll do this. That's fine. We have now been in emergency for a while. We've had the same administration for a while. We've had changes in different key positions within the city as well. We're still looking at the big piece not being done, policies and procedures. There's other items on here that can be done and should be done, but the policies and procedures have got to get in place. They've come to us. I've seen drafts. We have reviewed the drafts. I'm not the only one in my office who has looked at these drafts. We've gotten them back. We've given review comments. Those are to be worked on. I have not seen another set come back in. I know that the city had worked with a outside consultant to help with that. We still need to see those be put in play. These need to be one of the top priorities to get this piece done. I can't just take what you give me and move it along. It's got to be looking at, you have something in play that's a policy and procedure to take you forward after emergency is over. It's best practices, it's a better way to do things, it's a better control, it's better monitoring, whatever the case may be. We need to make sure those are in those policies and procedures and equipped. I've worked with Noah on one that we got through, and it took a long time to get through because you got to take this into account. And for him, unfortunately, there was a new GASB coming. I said, well, we might as well just go ahead and take care of that or it's going to be outdated. So those are some of the things that come into play when you're looking at policies and procedures. once you get them through us, they're approved by council, then we gotta see them in practice, which we have talked about before. So once you've approved them, I gotta make sure you're following them. So it's not just on paper, and it's the same thing I tell every entity that we have in fiscal emergency. It's a requirement under chapter 118. So, yes, there's been progress on this. Yes, there's some things that have been moved to full. There's some that are now wavering back to process, only because, like union agreements, you gotta get them back up and running again because they've expired and you're in negotiation. So I would say they're in process right now. So that's my takeaway from this. We've got to get the policies and procedures done. They have to be done. They have to be in good standing order. They have to be approved, and we've got to make sure that they're being followed and moving forward so that there is something in place so that controls and monitoring are there so this does not happen again. Do you have any questions on any of those?
Who's heading up the accounting method portion of this?
Well, the city as a whole should be working on it. The city auditor has taken on most of the policies and procedures. I know that he's supposed to be working on them again after review comments, and he's asked some questions, and we've had several conversations with him. Even Chris has been involved in some of those. Chris is my boss. He's spearheading some of that. That doesn't mean it should have to all fall under him. Several of the stuff is from an accounting side of the world, so it falls under his department, but there are a couple others that don't completely fall under him. So there should be a work in progress across the board. That's my take.
Do we feel like this is an open-ended question, do we feel like we're putting enough resources towards this project or people, or, I guess I'll kind of throw that out to you, Mr. Mayor. I know, when Ken kind of took this on, Ken Miracle, it was kind of spearheaded the project, and I think he made, good progress, and we'd all like that to continue, and I think we all realize the seriousness of this document relative to everything. Do we have enough people working towards that goal? Does the auditor need help?
So my whole concern with the whole thing is that even when we do, I looked at this, my most recent stuff was the city of Norwood should just normalize that all of our operations are we utilize the auditor's office, we stay in fiscal emergency forever. I don't plan, I've been here 5 years. One of the first things I thought we would be able to do is work, once we had $12 million carryover, we'd get out of this and we could work internally to get things done, but it didn't happen. We're at $17 million in the bank carryover and we're still in fiscal emergency. The policy, she talks about policies and procedures, and I understand that. My concern is, even when we finish policies and procedures, the state auditor's office, Chris and Anna Mary, will say, we got to do testing. Well, testing takes years. It's not tested, like they don't look at it and say, well, if this is your policy and procedure, and that's one that 10 other municipalities, and that's the one we've guided you to use, but the testing is the part that gets me, and there's no insight, there's no end date to that. The auditor's office can say, well, we tested on this, but guess what? This one failed this time. So I look at it and say, when you talk about getting out of fiscal emergency, I've sort of thrown in the towel. I'm like, let's stay in it. Let's just normalize it. Let's just make it so that we meet every month with the supervisor and the commission every month, and we do all those things because as much as my staff is working on these things, as they are doing their jobs also. And I, quite frankly, I think they're doing a pretty daggone good job of keeping the city moving in the right direction. And they continue to work on these things. You talk about the auditor's office working on things. I mean, they're all working on them, but when you say that, are you saying that let's add more people to try to work on the policies and procedures? We did some of that, but the time frame of our people reviewing it and then the auditor's office reviewing it, it doesn't end up being a week or 2 weeks in between that. It ends up being 3 weeks because the auditor's office, the state auditor's office, has all these school demands and demands on their time also. So, my concern is not getting out of the fiscal. My concern is improving the community that I'm the mayor of. And if we're in fiscal emergency 10 years from now, I don't care at this point. I really don't. I'd like to be out of fiscal emergency. I'd like to not be utilizing all of the state of Ohio's auditor times. I'd like to have systems in place. But even as we work on those systems, our feet are held to the fire, and then there's different stuff that comes along and you're working on. So to get back to your question, I think we've been putting a lot of effort and time into it. I'd like to have a budget director hired, but people who are in the budget, accounting, they're few and far between that have any municipal expertise that can come and sit down and really work with them. So we've been trying to find that person. If we could find that budget director person, maybe we could make a lot more headway, but, our searches have not been fruitful. So
On that side note, you might want to look at a fractional CFO or something like that, somebody that does have experience where you can buy them for like a day a week kind of thing, and as a service, you don't necessarily have to pay a full-time employee maybe to do that, just a thought. But as far as this, getting back to this, and this is a different tone I'm hearing from you than I've heard from in all the prior meetings.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
And I get it. I get it. It's a
Let's
slow
just
grind.
let's
but
just keep
I
doing
guess
it.
the thing I would recommend, having been on both sides of this and doing what you're doing, maybe not on the nonprofit side, but is it's got to be a steady flow of information. It's got to be like, all right, today we're attacking this, and I understand they have other jobs, which is why I'm saying, do we need to get them more resources? Do we need to free up, hire a temp, do whatever to get those people help to push this across the finish line? Because this thing can just drag and go on for years between we got a couple pieces done. Well, I'm on another project, and really I need to look at 3 or 4 at once to make it worth my time. And it just goes back and forth, and the can just kicks down the road. I see 21 in here, 22, we're in 25 now. I see some of the same things, but they're just not going away. And I think that somebody needs to take the ball and run across the finish line one by one and push them through and work directly with them and say, listen, I'm going to have 3 of these done in 3 weeks. Let's plan ahead and say, all right, knock those 3 out.
They're not done in 3 weeks. That's the problem. They get done in 3 weeks, but then they have to be tested 6 months, a year down the road.
I'm talking if it's either do it piecemeal, do it in batches, do it what is best for them, rather than a one-off or a 1 year or that, because that causes more delays just from a project management standpoint. So I think if somebody takes this, tackles these are mine, I own it, here's my deadline, and they stick to it, that's the only way it's going to work, and you're ever going to get out of it. Otherwise, we're going to be here 3, 4 more years and just talking about the same things and like, well, I don't know, got picked up and put down a bunch of times. That's what I see happening here. And it's not helping them, and it's not helping us. So, again, I throw it back out there as an offer to, what resources are needed to make this happen, unless, like you're saying, hell with it. I don't know, it is what it is. But I would strongly suggest against that, because this is the very core of what you do on a daily basis and how you do it.
Your words are to hell with it. Mine are embrace it and normalize it.
I didn't say to hell with anything. I said fix
You
it.
just said that. I said to hell with it. I'm not saying to hell with it. I'm saying embrace
if
the
you are.
system. Let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. We can keep moving and not worry about getting out of fiscal emergency. We've made a lot of good improvements utilizing this path that we've been doing. Apparently, at this point, it is just embrace it. Let's set up monthly meetings. Let's do this where we're on a regular basis. We're utilizing the auditor's office resources as much as we can from the city of Norwood's perspective, and go from there.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. We will keep moving along then. Next up on the agenda is report of the mayor. And Mayor, I know you had several projects that you had wanted to touch on that were tentatively planned for our last meeting that was canceled. So if you would like to go ahead. Give you the floor.
I will address the comment that Anna Mary made about projects and some of the different things we're doing. We did have to move funds from projects that we would like to have completed, smaller projects, different capital projects that we could not complete. And we have a flooding problem on Elm Avenue that has plagued this community for 50 or 60 years. And we have a situation, we've taken advantage of the situation where we could get funding for that project. Now, $800,000 is the city's portion of it. Well, we thought we'd be able to move forward with the funding that we put in the FRP, but quite frankly, it wasn't enough. we went to Hamilton County and asked for more money. We've got a commitment from them for this project, and we've had to basically curtail some of the projects that we wanted to do because we had to put the funding in place. And correct me if I'm wrong, Safety Service Director Powers, but we have to put upfront money for this project to move forward, and then we get reimbursed on a lot of this. So that takes a lot. We can't touch the $17 million carryover, $16 million carryover funds. We've got to take it out of the way it's allocated in the FRP to make things happen. So that makes it a big challenge, but it slowed down some of the projects, but we're going to get that project completed. And that's going to eliminate flooding in our community in a certain area, and that's incredibly important to the safety and well-being of our community. So that is one thing that I wanted to touch on. And then, yeah, you mentioned we are in the middle of the labor management agreements with all four of the different, with three of the unions at this point. So we just had council approve one of them for the fire department, which is great. And then I do want to share that the insurance increase for this year with our safety service director and our HR director, Lori Zombeck, they negotiated and worked with our third-party provider there, and it's a 5% increase. It's the first time we've ever had, that's a 5% increase is incredible. That is cost savings. It's unbelievable when they came back with those numbers. So those were the big ones too. There are some other projects and different things that are going on that NOAA has going in front of council, and those things will come back to the commission, I guess, hopefully next month's meeting. So that's all I really had.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else comments, questions on what the mayor offered?
Only comment I'll make is I've been in contact with NOAA and working through the issues with FRP and financing. I actually was down here last week with him to move some appropriations around that will stay within the FRP guidelines. They are getting grant monies that he has mentioned through a couple different sources down here locally. Those require separate funds, so you will not see all of that work within the FRP. Just to let you know, it's also separate funds that are involved by quite a lot of money, over $3 million altogether for two projects that are going to go on. One has to be done before the bigger project is done, which is the timing issue that we've kind of been working through on the accounting side of things. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Okay. Thank you. Next up on the agenda is report of the council president. Council President Gears, if you have anything.
I guess just a few things. So we continue to have our regular meetings for those of you who want to watch the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month at 7:30. We have our ongoing committee meetings, various committee meetings, including finance. Mr. Miracle, the auditor, does come to some of those meetings, and we get ready for our appropriation ordinances, which council does act to approve the night that they are proposed. Then we do also work to get those certified rather quickly after that so that payments can be made as needed. One of the things with the role of president of council is sitting on the PACE board, which they handle Norwood Community Television. And I'm not sure if this is something for a future version of the fiscal recovery plan, but they are having some ongoing financial issues with franchise fees continuing to go down because of the lack of, I guess we'll say, residents, consumers using Spectrum and Alta Fiber. So they have actually asked for the city and the schools to help supplement their lack of revenue so that they can continue to operate. I think city and schools, we both acknowledge that they are key to the community. They do provide an outstanding service, and they do help to keep the residents informed. I think that number is somewhere between $30,000 and $35,000 from each of the areas, so from city and schools. Another item from council, city council has launched their a community survey just a couple weeks ago. That went live. So far, we have around 600 surveys that have been completed. We do plan on getting some more responses within the community.
How is that distributed?
Well, right now, it has just been on social media, and council, they do have it on, I believe, the city website. It is posted out there. We plan on going a little more aggressive with the
Like an
distribution.
e-newsletter or something, or a blast? Or
Newsletter, we want to actually reach out to all of the members of the Norwood Chamber of Commerce. The survey is looking for input from residents, those who live in Norwood, those who work in Norwood, those who eat, shop, or play in Norwood, those who are visiting Norwood for services, be it hair cuts, medical.
What about business owners?
Yes. So we're really targeting anyone who can provide council with some feedback. I think collectively, the entire survey is like 80 questions, but it is targeted. So not everyone is asked every question. They are filtered based on what they select. So if they live in Norwood, Norwood residents will have a certain set of questions. We do get, I believe, everyone, we're asking them demographic information. And we are also giving everyone the opportunity, if they so choose, to be contacted by a member of council to discuss any other items, and they can list what those items are. I think our goal, we were looking at a minimum of 1,500 completed surveys, and we're about a third of the way there.
How long's it been out?
Early January, so it hasn't even been a month yet.
Yeah, I didn't even know about it. I mean, I didn't come across it, so.
Gotcha. But yeah, I think we also want to send something to the schools so they can send that out with the parent communications. So we're trying to reach everyone. We will also we're working on the printed copies for those who do not have access to electronic communications, to fill out a paper copy, and then we'll have someone manually enter all of that information. And then, so part of the results with that community survey, one of the items we have in council as committee of the whole is to work on a master plan. So we did not want that master plan to just reflect the thoughts and opinions of the members of council, which is why we did solicit we're going after the thoughts and the feedback of those in the community. That is all that I have.
All right. Thank you, Council President. Next up on the agenda is to determine the next meeting date and time. So, sir?
This is my recommendation for the commission to meet on a regular basis and so that people can get it on their agenda. Members know when the meeting is, and even the community knows when the meetings are. Mine would be monthly meetings on the second Thursday of each month, and that puts the meeting between the first and the second meeting of City Council, which would be a good time for us. It gives us a chance to review and discuss the changes that council approved, or provide the administration and others with some guidance on what needs to be done with City Council's blessing. A standard monthly meeting provides the insight into could provide insight on how the city is operating. Right now, the auditor's office provides the reports, but there's really no report that goes out that gives sort of the in-depth. Like if you look at attachment C that Anna Mary provided to us, this is a great report that we're receiving. We receive these randomly because the commission only meets randomly. So by having it monthly, we could get that report on a regular basis and it would provide help to citizens and everybody, provide some transparency. So
It would be hard for my office to get these reports done by that time because I need the month closed. So that would be hard to do that time frame for us because I have to get the information from you and put it in and look at it and so forth. And we talked about that they have to be reconciled by the 15th. You really should have it, when you close out, you should be reconciled. So I will put that out there.
Okay, so is there a better date or time that would be acceptable for monthly meetings?
That's a discussion. We went away from monthly meetings, so that goes back to the chair and the rest of the commission. So
I know this was mentioned earlier, but what's the occurrence of council meetings?
Second and fourth Tuesdays.
Second and fourth Tuesdays, okay. Understood. Okay. Well, I'd like to open up to other members of the commission that have been on the commission prior to me, since this is my first meeting. I know in discussing and talking with some other folks that chair these commissions, I think typically the process is you start and you're on a regular monthly recurring meeting schedule, right? But then when things start to take better shape, those are kind of moved away from as has been done here. I'd certainly be open to regular meetings just so we have dates that we're planning on. I would more push for maybe every other month, and then we can jump in with the need where it occurs. And Mr. Schwartz, Mr. Gomez.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously being in private, it's hard for me to lose, a few hours of my morning. And I know it's hard for you guys to
Yeah.
come down here regularly and get here on time. And I think we've also been having special meetings as well. So if you lay a monthly meeting in there, you throw a special meeting in there, all of a sudden it gets to be almost where we were way back in the day. I just want to meet for the right reasons and meet and have a sufficient meeting to go over many topics
Yeah.
and have less meetings rather than, have a half-hour meeting or something, even some of these been in like, one was at 2 p.m., so it's like, well, I just can't make that. So if there are more meetings, I think there might be more absences. I certainly want to come, but I couldn't come to every month meeting probably, but I'll get here if I can get here.
I mean, every other month seems more reasonable to me.
Okay.
Just Thursday at 9 a.m., I have a standing meeting
Okay.
every single week, so that particular time not good, but, if that's what's decided, we'll figure that out.
What was it?
That time between meetings goes quick too, it seems like. We're only just here. And it's like, well, yeah, it was a month ago. And it takes time for things to happen.
Yeah, I would say it's every 6 weeks to 2 months or something.
Okay.
Every other month is acceptable.
Yeah, I would say also, it sounds like we're gonna have the need for a special meeting potentially over the next month before we meet again, so, I think every other month seems reasonable to me and keeps us on a more regular schedule, like you suggest, Mayor. I think the only thing we will need to discuss then is date and time. I don't know that necessarily needs to be decided at this exact moment. I'm happy to hear ideas. Typically, the second Thursday of each month at 9 a.m. would work for me. It sounds like it wouldn't be great for Anna Mary to get all of the numbers together if we want to get on a more regular reporting occurrence, which would be kind of the reason behind the meetings.
Council meetings are on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Thursday was just a date.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Put
Yeah.
out there. The second Thursday was a date put out there because it's in the middle
Yeah.
of those. Anna Mary brings up the point that you gotta close out the books and be able to audit and review those things. I mean, so are we looking at like the third, if it's on the third Wednesday, that's a day after a council meeting. If it's on, I mean, do we do it on, say, the third Monday? And that way it's prior to the meeting, the council meeting on Tuesday.
I would say no Mondays.
I think it might benefit us to go after council too, just given the fact that we've had some stuff that has to go through council before it can come for us to approve it.
So do the third Wednesday,
That would work for me.
Joe?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds doable.
Makes it easy for me to know if it's a standing meeting, because I'm usually taking
Yeah.
the day off work for this anyway.
And then we're saying we're going to, it's January now, we're gonna potentially have, are we saying odd months?
Yeah, that works.
March next?
Yeah.
So the recovery plan, I'm just throwing this out there.
Yeah.
The update was on April the 2nd, 2024 last year, so it has to be before then. It has to go through council, and then it has to come to commission. Commission has to have prior practice a week to look at it. I'm in review of that after it's submitted to me. We'll talk about timelines and when that needs to come to me to make sure it stays on process to get it done in March. There's been several things discussed today that FRP needs updated based on what I've been hearing across the board. So I'll only caution that if we do that, then we will have, if it's not ready, not approved by council before what I'm assuming you're looking at March 19th, that's before even the due date. So that's the only thing I'm going to caution you on.
Okay, so we would have to turn around and come back pretty quick.
Council
To
is
figure
the
that out.
2nd and 4th, so 11th, 25th is the council meetings.
Mhm.
So, and we're saying our meeting would be the third Wednesday, which is the 19th.
Mhm.
That's the number you're talking about.
Mhm.
So council would need to approve everything the previous meeting for it to come to them at that time.
Or within a special meeting before the date that's on here. I do believe that you got up until the commission approval, but like between the March 21st to the April 2nd, because you can look at what happened in 22. But that would be a call from the chair and the commission on that, on what timeline they went. But I will say that if you're gonna have it approved by the 11th, I gotta have that recovery plan soon.
And I will note that historically, I know council has not been thrilled about a couple-day notice to review the actual plan. So the sooner it can be presented for them to thoroughly go through and review, I don't want to speak for all of council, but I feel like it would be greatly appreciated by the members.
Okay, so maybe we play the first one a little different, just given the timing of the recovery plan. Anna Mary, do you have a suggestion on when would probably work best to keep us in good shape to have everything done on time?
I think you need to give the city the full month of March to get it fully approved.
Okay.
And that first week of April. I mean, I wouldn't have March financials to provide to you. We can provide February's, but the biggest task would have to be the recovery plan anyways, which we've done in the past. You definitely would need to do a special, which we need to talk about for the debt if they're going to approve that next week. But that's even different than what we normally do, but to get, I think you're looking the first week of April, but that's just my suggestion, so. for
That's what I
that
was
part.
thinking, based on past experience.
So with that all being said, we're gonna have special meetings, we're gonna have special council meetings. If I need to call special council meetings, we'll do that. But are we set on the third Wednesday of odd months, which would put our next scheduled meeting to be the 26th of March?
Well, I think what we're talking about now is adapting that to fit the FRP timeline, right? So-
I think what you were saying is you're gonna have to have, you already know you're going to have a special
Yeah,
meeting
for
for other
yeah.
stuff, so. what-
Your
why
suggestion
that
would be,
change?
yeah, so your suggestion would be to just establish this timeline,
For a regular meeting.
That's our regular meeting.
have a regular meeting then, and then come back,
Wednesday odd months. We
come
know
back
that.
with a special to
Yeah.
review the FRP.
Correct.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that. It's gonna put us 2 meetings in relatively quick succession, but I do not have an issue with that.
See how
All right.
it goes.
All right, so we'll tentatively shoot for Wednesday, March 26th at, I'm gonna say 9:30 a.m. if that's okay.
That's the fourth Wednesday.
That's the fourth Wednesday, you're correct, the 19th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's the 19th then.
19th,
All right.
9 a.m.
9:30 a.m.
9:30, okay,
Fourth
sorry.
Monday, Thursdays, right?
Okay.
So we don't have an issue with Wednesdays, right?
Should not have an issue with Wednesdays. Chief, what days are court?
Monday.
Just Monday?
just Mondays.
Unless it's.
Unless there's a Monday holiday.
Unless there's a Monday holiday and then it's Tuesday.
All right, yeah.
All right, and then we will plan special meetings as needed, per se for the police cruiser leases, and then potentially the FRP as well, just depending on the timing of that.
And we're still not allowed by the state to have virtual meetings of any kind. That would certainly help everybody.
It would be convenient,
You
wouldn't it?
know, it's a little more modern day.
All right. I will take any last comments, questions?
Is there going to be a special meeting set to go over the cruisers?
So I think that's the plan. I would wait and see if and when they're approved.
We will be taking them on.
On Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe everyone pull out their calendars again. So you're gonna be taking them on Tuesday.
Are there other things that are coming down the pike, Noah, that we need to get on there financing wise for streets?
We'll have EPA loans to discuss again here at some point. Those will not be at the next council meeting. I don't believe so.
So we're gonna meet for one item. Because we can't do it contingent upon.
No.
Okay, understood.
No, can we make sure that on that, in that cover sheet for the timing, that it's explained for
Yes.
to suspend the rules and have all three readings, and that the Financial Planning Supervision Commission is waiting
Yeah.
on that as well?
The next council meeting is on the 28th. Do we want, how about if we meet on that Thursday at 9 o'clock? Just kidding. When do you want to try to meet on the 31st, which is the Friday? And this is going to be a brief meeting, not this. So Brad, it's just come in and say yes, and then,
What time? This morning?
yeah, 9 o'clock,
Yeah,
9:30?
Wednesday, Thursday,
Yeah.
Friday,
Do Friday at 9:30?
9:30, yep.
Just those mid-afternoon ones are the,
Yeah.
when you work out by the airport, it's just too far.
Okay.
I will be a maybe for that day.
Maybe, okay.
Facilitating the training
I
class.
think that's the 31st, right?
That is the 31st.
So we just need, we just need quorum
Nobody's enrolled.
to sign the document, right?
Yep.
4. Okay.
All right, Friday, January 31st at 9:30 a.m., we will tentatively plan for a special meeting, contingent on everyone being able to make it and us having a quorum. I will reach out today or tomorrow and confirm with folks. All right?
I would make a motion we,
Yes, please do.
I'll make a motion we adjourn.
All right.
I'm second.
You'll take care of me.
Then we will take the voice vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, all opposed, same sign. And we are adjourned. Thank you.